What's up, guys? Python here, back with another episode of Rangers Talk. Here with Nick, Nico, not here again, but today we're going to be discussing our rankings of the New York Rangers since 2010. We're also going to talk about a couple other little things that have happened. Sorry for getting this episode up a day late, but we are still bringing it. Remember, you know who we're brought to you by. My friends over at Manscaped. That's right. They are the best in men's below the waist grooming. Their products are precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's performance package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. And you can get 20% off and free shipping worldwide with the code Python. That is a lot of ball deodorant that you could get. That is a lot of lawn mowers that you could get. That's a lot of wipes you could get. Code Python at Manscaped for 20% off and free shipping. Get the right tools there for the job. And also check out TickPick as well to get yourself to a game for less money. So, Nick, with that being said, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Living life.
Living life, knowing that Jimmy
Yeah.
Vesey is a New York Ranger again.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about that. I don't even know what to think, to be honest with you. Um, this is a replacement for Tyler Mott, pretty much, right? Or unfortunately, but I don't know.
If that's their replacement for Tyler Mott, oh God.
I think so. It probably is, to be honest with you. So, I guess hope for the best with him, and hopefully this time it'll go better for him than the last 16, 17, 18, it's 3 years, something like that. So
Yeah, but how long until he's on the second line with Trocheck and Panarin?
yeah, it'll probably be quick. Panarin, Trocheck, and VC is gonna be exciting to watch.
At least my VC jersey has use again, even though it's
Yeah.
a youth size. Either way, I'm not. Even if it was an adult size, I was not gonna pull up to MSG rocking a Jimmy VC jersey. I'm sorry, but
I
no.
was gonna get a Jimmy VC jersey after his first season, but I was like, let me wait until I see the following season, see how he does again. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna get anyone's jersey anymore.
Yeah, no. I regret that one, but
Hmm.
I wonder if you could find any on clearance right now, go grab one because you might as well get it
Yeah,
while it's still cheap. But
for real.
yeah, I mean, there's not much else we could say about Jimmy Vesey. It's a weird signing. He signed for 1 year, league min, so there's not much else to say. We don't really see him playing every day, so and if he is, then that's a whole different problem.
Yeah, for real. See what
But
happens.
we'll just jump right into the tier list because we don't really have much to talk about here. So,
Yeah.
what we did is, like I mentioned, we decided to do a tier list where we rank our opinions on teams, on the Rangers teams since the 2009-2010 season. So let's jump into that. So, Nick, starting off with you, explain your tier list.
Damn, I didn't realize I was going first, but all right, bet.
That's just the way it's listed.
All right, it is what it is. All right, so what we got here, as you can see, best team could have won it all. Solid, mid, trash. We'll go through it from top to bottom here, obviously. So best team, it's got to be the 11-12 team. I think that's the best team we've had since '94. I don't think there's, in my opinion, I don't think there's much debate, but in others' opinions, there is a little bit of a debate. And that team is in the could have won it all, which was the 14-15 team. That team and the 11-12 usually get compared a lot for which team was better. But for me personally, I think the 12 team is pretty clear is clearly better, pretty clearly better. Um, so yeah, 14-15 could have won it all. Same with the 13-14 team. I was debating if I should put them in solid just because we probably should have lost in the second round to Pittsburgh, but um, certain things happen within the organization. If you were there for the run, you know what I mean. And it kind of just sparked the team a little bit, and they went off to a run to the Stanley Cup final to Game 5. So I was gonna say something else. To why I could have put them in solid is just the fact that they blew a couple more than two goal leads, which we won't get into. But no, I'm a little. I guess could have won it all. I mean, it's pretty fair just to have them there, just because they made the cup final, and they got hot obviously after what happened. So the next team we got here, the 21-22 team. This past run, I thought we could have won it all because we were just playing, good hockey after, the Pittsburgh series being down 3-1. We got kind of hot a little bit. So I think the only problem here was the fact we didn't get many days off. Not necessarily in between games, because, I mean, games are usually every other day, sometimes every 2 days, but it's the fact that we hopped from one series to the other like within a day or two, and I think that really killed us, especially when we faced Tampa Bay in the conference final, and Tampa Bay getting that 9-day break or something like that, it proved to pay off towards the end. Not so much against Colorado. Oh, Colorado got the same amount of days off, probably even more, considering they just kind of took their opponents out pretty quickly. But yeah. Solid 2010, 2011 playoffs, or the team in general. I thought they were solid. Coached by John Tortorella, obviously. They got a little younger, and probably added a couple. How should I say? Probably added a couple like vet, pieces that that were just better than whatever they had before from the 09-10 season when they missed the playoffs. So, I thought they were a solid team. They got a little younger, and they made the playoffs. I'm pretty sure I forgot what game it was. They were up by like 3 goals or something like that, and then they completely blew the lead, and they like lost in overtime against the Capitals. I forgot what game that was, but that series definitely could have gone a little deeper. But I have to rewatch it again. I just feels like it's so long ago. 12-13, put them in solid. I would have had them and could have won it all had they just built off whatever they had in 11-12. But I think Len Sather got a little greedy. He heard that, Rick Nash wanted out of Columbus. I think one of his preferred destinations were us. And he kind of overpaid for Rick Nash. Gave up Anisimov, Dubinsky, and a couple other pieces. So we lost decent amount of depth for Rick Nash. So basically our top 6 improved, but our bottom 6, got worse. And you need a good bottom 6, to, make a run in the playoffs. So, yeah. So, I mean, I could have had them and could have won it all, but it was the fact that we also lost to Boston in 5 games. And I think we were battling a couple injuries during the playoffs that year as well. So, again, I think they should have just built off whatever they had from the season prior, but they didn't, and the rest is history. Yeah. And that was ultimately the last year towards coach the Rangers. So 16-17, kind of like the same situation with the 09-10 to 10-11, except this time from 15-16 to 16-17, we got significantly I would say a lot younger. Would you agree, Evan? Adding like a guy like VC, Nick Holden, so I forgot how old Nick Holden was, but I just thought, who else did we? I'm pretty sure Holden was. Who else? Brady Shea, he was there too. But who else? How old was Holden? At the time, I'm pretty sure he was like relatively young. We had Brady Shea as well from, the minors. He played a little bit with us in 15, 16, but getting rid of guys like Dan Boyle helps and from your blue line and getting rid of Derek Brassard for Mika Zibanejad, which makes the team younger, obviously. And then you had guys like Chris Kreider take, more responsibility on the team because, all the guys that were, pretty much running the team from, our Stanley Cup days have, either retired or got traded or, just didn't resign with the team or gone. So, that team was younger for sure. But I thought, I thought that team was underrated. Like, we spoke about Evan. We could have beaten Ottawa. We should have beaten Ottawa. Definitely should have made it to the conference final. And I'm not saying we would have beaten Pittsburgh, but I definitely would have been okay going down to Pittsburgh than Ottawa. I mean, that was just embarrassing, especially game 5. Forget that. Was it game 5 or game 3? I'm thinking of
With
game. Pajot was game 3 or game. No, game 2. Game 2, right? Or was it game 5? We blew a lead in game 5 too. I'm pretty sure.
It was. I want to say it was game 5.
I just remember it was like back and forth, and then we scored we scored, and then the Senators scored, then they were within 2, and then they scored, then we scored, and then they got back within 1, then they tied it, and then they just won it in overtime. I guess
What's game 2?
What happened in game 5? We blew a lead that game too. We lost in overtime, didn't we? Or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
Besides that, I thought the team was solid overall. So, yeah. Mid, I did 09-10. Not much to really say here besides the fact that, we had a shit ton of veterans. We weren't anything serious. We were just like pretty darn old. Besides guys like Mark Stahl, Ryan Callahan, Del Zotto on the team, those guys. I'm pretty sure Girardi was relatively young that year too. So we could have won the shootout, had Torts put Marian Gaborik there, but he didn't. And I'm not saying he would have done anything or scored, but just losing a shootout to one of your rivals like that, that's tough. But I could have put them in solid if they made the playoffs, but the fact that they missed it kind of just had me put them in mid. So yeah, they're in mid. 19-20. We were hot towards the end, made a playoff push. I think we could have made the playoffs, but COVID happened, so we don't know for sure. I'm not gonna just assume and put them in solid. But I put them in mid because we were just like really inconsistent, and we still are. To be fair, it's just like Igor kind of just helps. I mean, we had Igor towards the end, and that was, part of our success. I mean, think about it. Like, we didn't really start to win a lot more games or games consistently, like, to string a few wins in a row, not till like Igor came up. So from Hartford, but before that, it was like Hank and Georgie, and we were just really inconsistent. But right now we're really focusing on just like, the play of the team and like the players that they had, not so much about like if the goalie bailed us out necessarily. I mean, I guess you could say that the 21-22, but they made the conference final and this team lost in the bubble. So,
Yeah.
anyways, 15-16. So people watching, you're probably shocked a little bit by this. Like, how you going to have, you're probably saying like, how you going to have like the 2017 team or the 2013 team up there and not 15-16. Like, we just made the conference final the year prior. I only had them there in mid because that's necessarily so much that, because we lost to Pittsburgh in the first round. I mean, they ultimately won the Stanley Cup shot. I took that into account, but it's just the fact that, you know, we just lost our spark as a team. We finished third in the Metro, but that didn't really matter to me. I just knew we weren't even going to do much damage in the playoffs heading in that year. I just wasn't looking forward to it. I had a bad feeling about that year, and um, especially towards the end, we were super inconsistent. So I just didn't. That team didn't have the same spark as they did like with the 2012 or 15 team or even 14. So it just didn't feel the same. And then 16, 17 gave me a little bit more hope, but um, yeah, I just knew I didn't have a good feeling about that season or those playoffs that year. Well, heading into the season, I expected another run, but I mean, just the fact that you lost Hagelin and Marty St. Louis, it really showed. So, yeah, that was definitely tough. 2021, we would have been a playoff team in two of the four divisions. Um, put them in mid, kind of the same reason. I'm not the same reason. I don't know. I mean, the team was coached by David Quinn. I don't know. Inconsistent in the beginning, and then couldn't show up in big games. And we finished off above 500. We were like 27, 23. I'm pretty sure we had a decent record. Would have been a playoff team in two of the four divisions, like I said. But um, we just started to win games a little too late in that shortened season, and yeah, you just can't do that. A good team just plays good, kind of like right out of the get go, right from the get go. So I don't know. I didn't think they were necessarily solid, and we had a few holes in our lineup too. There was just we were coming out of a rebuild, retool that year as well. I don't know. I just didn't really like that team, so they definitely weren't in trash though. I'll tell you that. But I just thought mid was fair enough. Now this is debatable as well. I put it there. I'll tell you why. I could have them in trash, but I only put them in mid because we could have made the playoffs. If you guys remember, thinking of around January, we were only like 2 points out of the playoff spot or something like that after a horrible start, after like a 2-7 start or some great stupid like that. I'm pretty sure there was a point, around January, I'm pretty sure we were above 500. We were stringing a few wins together, since November on. And I just thought, if we kept adding, maybe we would have made the playoffs. But that's, if we did make the playoffs, I probably would have put them in solid. But they missed the playoffs. But I didn't really think they were trash at the same time because, they could have easily added on and made a push and got like a wild card spot, kind of like what they did the season prior. But it made sense to, really tear it apart and sell some assets like McDonough, Nash, Miller, and it went downhill from there. So that's why I have it in mid, because I thought if we just added on, we could have made the playoffs, but we didn't, and it just, like I said, went downhill from there.
Yeah, because the year after needs no introduction.
Yeah. So, and you had guys, we made the playoffs the year prior and we had that relatively the same roster. So, and the expectation was to make the playoffs, but I think when we got off to a bad start and then kind of, made us think twice, and then, we were just playing from behind and we were just trying to catch up, and we made it above 500 by a couple, handful of games, but I think Jeff Gordon just wanted to build, a Stanley Cup contender, obviously, and he thought obviously this team wasn't going to make the Stanley Cup anytime soon if you just kept adding on. So he just thought it was best to rebuild, and I agree with him. But I still thought that team could have made the playoffs, but I don't think they would have made a deep run. And then trash, I did 18-19. I mean, we had a little thing. We had a little skid where I'm pretty sure we were in first place in the Metropolitan for like a week or two. We won a couple of games, and then that was like October, November, like early November, like something like really like there was like a small time period. It's just like really weird. And then we eventually showed our true colors for the rest of the year and just like really shit the bed. And that team was just like not good though. Like they were just not good. Like I don't even know. Like if you watched like the team, like you just know what I mean. Yeah, so that was like, and 17-18 could have been there, but I just thought because we could have made the playoffs if we just didn't tear it apart. That's why they're mid, but we had no expectation of making the playoffs in 18-19, and we were super young. We had a lot of young guys, young pieces to our team. And we added David Quinn for the first year. So that's an inexperienced coach right there. So like everything was just like so new from top to bottom. You just knew they weren't making the playoffs, and it just didn't work out. So yeah, so that's my tier list. And hope you guys like it and agree with it for the most part. So yeah.
For the most part, I agree. I mean, I think that both of our tier lists we have a fairly similar list here. I think I was a bit more generous with one of the teams, but outside of that, yeah, I don't really disagree with a lot of this list here at all. Which we will now move on though to my list, and as you guys can see, top tier, the 11-12 year, Nick and I both agree on that they are the best team that the Rangers have iced since that 94 team. And they could have won the President's Trophy that year, just fell short. And then in the playoffs, of course, they easily could have went far. And then they played the New Jersey Devils, sadly. And injuries also happened. That team probably should have won it all, though. They were easily the best team and probably the most fun team to watch also out of all these. The next team, 14-15, they ended up winning the President's Trophy, and they got hot later on in this year because for a while they were kind of more second, third in the division. And then towards the end, they got extremely hot. Cam Talbot, of course, stepping in, coming up big in this year, and leads the Rangers to the President's Trophy. And overall in the playoffs, in terms of what happened there, if you just actually showed up in your own building for game 5 or game 7 against Tampa, we could be talking about something completely different. Who knows? But yeah, overall, that team easily could have, obviously because they're in the tier, but they could have won it all very easily. And I think that they're the second best team for those reasons. Third, I have this past year's team, the 21-22 team. Might be a bit of recency bias there, but to me, what won them over for me over the 13-14 team is how they did in the playoffs. Because, yeah, they had to come back from a 3-1 deficit also, but it's just the way that they were playing. The 5-on-5 questions that they had all season long, they kind of were put to bed a bit. And in that Pittsburgh series, it could have been wrapped up quicker if defensively they were just a bit sharper, and if Igor, even in games 3 and 4, was a bit sharper. Especially, I think it was game 3 where we ended up tying it, and then either way, it didn't matter. But yeah, this team, and then if they played the Avs, I think that, I know it might sound biased and all that, but I think they would have matched up a lot better against the Avalanche than Tampa did, just given the fact that one, Tampa has been in back-to-back cups. They were kind of just gassed out at that point. And 2, they also just don't have the speed that we had. So I think that if the Rangers just didn't have a defenseman that wears the jersey number 8, they could have been in the Stanley Cup very easily this past year as well. 13-14 year.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. To add on to that, Tampa Bay being in like the 3rd straight Cup final, appearance, I don't think they would have had the same desire to win the cup as much as we did, just because for the most part, besides Chris Kreider, obviously, this is the team's first Stanley Cup final for everyone. Like I said, besides Kreider, so I think we obviously would have been a lot more hungry to win the cup. And Tampa Bay was probably was like been there, done that. If we lose, if we win, great. If not, it's whatever. But that's just what I think.
Completely agree. And like I said, just the matchup in general also I
Yeah.
felt was kind of in our favor a bit there. 13-14 though. That team, I agree with Nick in the sense where they could have been lower in the tier list and they could have been solid because a lot of things were iffy in the playoffs with that team. Of course, they were shaky against Pittsburgh. Montreal, they were a bit shaky as well. Henrik Lundqvist, of course, standing on his head in Game 6 to send this team to the Cup. But at the same time, that LA series, it was only 5 games, but it was a lot closer, those games, than people remember. Obviously, the Dwight Kingle bullshit.
Well, yeah, the refs don't help either. That screwed us too.
Yep. Blowing 2-goal leads numerous times. They had a lot of the game. They should have easily, outside of Game 3, they could have locked up the other games. So, yeah, with that 13-14 team, I agree in the sense that they were shaky in the playoffs, and that's kind of why. But again, at the same time against LA, they looked pretty sharp, and they could have easily won. 16-17, I have as the top team in solid. I know it's a bit weird, but it's because of the fact that I feel that they should have made the conference finals this year. I think they would have lost to Pittsburgh regardless, but still feel they should have beaten Ottawa, and I thought that they played great against Montreal. So that's kind of why I have them at the top of solid there. And you can kind of see the trend that I have here where if you made the playoffs, you got into the solid tier because 12, 13. This was a difficult year because of the lockout. There was injuries also, like Nick mentioned, and they end up losing to Boston in that second round. Overall, very solid series though against Washington. They could have definitely put up a better fight against Boston in this playoff run, but as Nick mentioned as well, they sold off depth to get Rick Nash, and that could have been a bit of an Achilles heel there. Regular season, like I said, hard to even talk about because of the fact that it was a shortened season. 2010, 2011, not much really to say with this team. They didn't perform that great against Washington. They could have taken them a bit further, but overall, it wasn't going to be that much further. So that's kind of why they're in the solid tier in terms of the regular season. Solid regular season. They snuck into the playoffs, sure, but they were still a competitive team for the most part. 15-16. That team, I mean, a lot went wrong with this team. Eric Stahl was not it. The team was hot at the beginning of the year, cold towards the end of the year, and Pittsburgh just absolutely just rolled over that team in the playoffs. And yeah, not enough moves at the deadline to push that team over the hump. Mid to kick things off, 1920. Of course, they got hot towards the end of that year. They started off very brutal. They were in the basement for the most part. And then everyone, of course, because of the 18-19 Blues, was like, well, look at the St. Louis Blues. So everyone kind of did the same thing with this team because you had the comparison where Igor came up like Jordan Binnington for them. So you're like, all right. But fortunately, COVID hit, and this team, we couldn't really see what they were really made of. You had, in my opinion, I didn't think Lindy Ruff was a great defensive coach, but to me, it definitely doesn't help the fact that you have an entire defensive system change from what you were playing a couple months ago to what you ended up playing in the bubble, which, of course, not a bad consolation prize where they get the number 1 overall pick at the end of this. But at the end of the day, this team easily could have made the playoffs if the season played out normally because those games down the stretch were definitely fun to watch. But at the same time, you had a couple inconsistencies here and there, and defensively, they weren't the strongest team either. 2009, 2010, older team. They just missed the playoffs this year. Not much really to say with them outside of that, honestly, because like I said, didn't make the playoffs close, but 17-18. Again, like Nick said, they were competitive for the most part until the deadline, and then we saw them completely fall off a cliff. And this is a team could have made the playoffs, but they sold off, and it was the right thing to do, even if you botched a couple trades here and there. You did good on one deal, did bad, of course, on the bigger trade, but this team probably could have made the playoffs out if Gordon decided, you know what, we want to go out and contend. Let's just add a couple pieces at the deadline. They had options there. He went the rebuilding route, and as of right now, it's definitely paying off. But at the time, it definitely was a bit frustrating. Trash, a little bit of a surprising one. The 2021 team, I wouldn't really say 2021 just because there was no games played in 2020. But for this team, they weren't necessarily a bad team when you look at the record. But the things that just happened with all the drama with Tony D'Angelo, you had Brendan Lemieux, you just had all these injuries, the Panarin situation, just it was a complete chaotic year from top to bottom with the organization. David Quinn gets let go of at the end of the year. John Davidson and Jeff Gordon get fired with a couple games left. Tom Wilson, that whole incident occurred. It wasn't necessarily that they were an awful team. It's just that there was so much surrounding the team that year that was just so chaotic. You had Zibanejad, who was battling COVID for half the year, it seemed like, because he was invisible for half of the year. Kreider and him kind of switched places. Kreider was absolutely ridiculous at the beginning of this year. Then he went invisible the second half. Then you had Buchnevich, who looked like he was at a funeral every time he scored a goal. The team just didn't look like they wanted to play hockey for the most part this year. So threw him in trash for those reasons. And then 18-19, definitely the worst iced Rangers team in God knows how long, probably in my lifetime. Just complete garbage from top to bottom. David Quinn's first year, he wasn't necessarily awful in his first year given the circumstances, but he kind of stayed away more and more from what he set out to do when he came into the fold here. But that 18-19 team, we knew they were going to be bad. Had a couple moments where they looked solid, but overall, very awful team. But you know what? We give them props for being the first Rangers team to get a win in Brooklyn. So, sure. But, yeah, I don't have much else to say.
I would have. It still kills me that we got Rick Nash because I would have loved to see like Marian Gaborik in a Stanley Cup final uniform with the Rangers. That would have looked so hot. I have a Gaborik poster right now, just like imaging like that cup
we
final.
Had to see him in the
that would have looked sick. I mean, we wouldn't have Nash, but if we could figure out a way to get like Brassard and like Dorset still on this team, you know, or even just, you know what, they wouldn't even be on the team because we would have had Anisimov, Dubinsky, and then it would have been Gabby, Richards, and then maybe you make the same deal anyways with Callahan. So Gabby, Richards, St. Louis. Oof.
The biggest what if is what if that trade with Stamkos actually went down?
Well, yeah.
How different would things be?
I think they would have been different for sure, but we would have definitely lost like guys like Del Zotto or Girardi because I think that was on like their wish list.
They were, but I don't think it would have been the end all be all. I would have
not at all
done it in a heartbeat still for Stamkos. And yeah, I mean, I think that would have changed the whole dynamic of the team. I think 11-12, they're a lock to win at that point when you have Stamkos and Gaborik.
Yeah, and then Richards as well. No, but my biggest what if, because when I saw a video and from CBC, which is the Canadian broadcast channel, and they were covering like the St. Louis trade on YouTube. Well, not on YouTube, on television, but the video got posted to YouTube, and they were talking. St. Louis was talking about how I forgot how many years back he said, but it was definitely before the 2012 team, and I was just questioning myself, like, what if they just like were able to land a trade with St. Louis beforehand, and then bring him in, and then put him into the mix with the team we had in 12, and then hopefully you would still assign a guy like Richards. Maybe not too as massive of a deal, but still though, like I don't know, it just would have been sick.
Could you imagine though we didn't have the compliance buyout? Brad Richards would have been a Ranger up until I think not this past year, of course, but the year before that, the 2021 season. I think
He would have been
still
with
would have been a
David
Ranger.
Quinn. That's hilarious. He would have been with David Quinn.
That's awful to think about.
I think he honestly would have retired anyways, because he retired like with the Red Wings.
Well, he probably would have just been on LTIR to get
Or
the bag.
yeah, just to get the bag for sure. But yeah, no, it's just so many what ifs. Personally, I mean, the Nash trade never made sense.
We don't need you chance for a reason.
Yeah, that never made sense. Because yeah, like think about it. Like imagine like trading like let's say like we re-signed like Tyler Mott, right? Like imagine trading a guy like Mott or let's say Heedle or who else? Sammy Blay, like one of two of those three guys, or even all three, just to get like I don't know Nazem Kadri. Like if he was on a team right now, and then you just trade for him, just like imagine like doing something like that, just to improve the top six, but then you have no one on the bottom six. Like that's just
why
like
I try
it's
to
like that.
That's why I try to tell people that want guys like Patrick Kane or JT Miller to be careful what you wish for, because we've seen what happens when they go out and sell depth to make that big splash, and does not always help out. You need depth in this league, and we saw that this past year, because look at the difference between past years where we had guys like Brett Howden in the bottom six, where we had Michael Haley, guys like that, versus this past year where you have Barkley Goudreau, Sammy Blay, Tyler Mott, guys like that.
Yeah, it's just like we made the conference final like the year before. It just didn't make sense to like ruin or mess with anything like that. Just like just build on build on whatever you had, and then this year, look what we're doing. We're building from what we had, into next year. Even though we lost Cop and Vetrano, to me, in my opinion, we're probably just a step forward from like last year, because we lost Cop and Vetrano, so we kind of like went back to where we were, but then that step forward is like replacing Strome for Trocheck. So like we're basically in the same position from last season in the beginning. We just got a better replacement for Strome and Trocheck. So I think this team is definitely in a better position to start out the season, which is huge in my opinion. And I think it will pay off if we add some, a couple big names at the deadline.
I'd say you have more though to start the year, because you're gonna get a full year of Schneider. You're gonna have a better year from Keandre Miller, because he was a dumpster
I was talking
fire.
about like specifically about our forward group, because we added Cop and Vetrano, but now they're
But when
gone.
it comes to that, you're gonna get what you hope is an improved Lafreniere and Kako. You're gonna get Kravtsov into the mix. You're hoping maybe Othman surprises you, and Cap Heedle takes a step forward. So you're in a better position in that front.
Yeah, we just I think it's huge that we didn't we're not taking really much of a step back, and like we said, probably a step forward if anything. We're in a better position this year, and this is how it should be. Each year you start off in a better position than the following year, unless you win a Stanley Cup and then you have to let it go a couple guys to make the salary cap work. That's another story. But we're not at that position yet. We're close, but we're not there yet. But I like what Drew's doing. He's not getting greedy. He's, really playing this safe as, he should be. And, I think it's going to pay off within the next couple of years for sure. I think either this year we could make a run, especially if you get a couple big names at the deadline, or the following year. and also it would also help that Lafreniere and Kako really take, that next step as players. That would even be huge. Like,
I
and I
think the
mean
playoff
huge.
experience is going to help a lot
In
with
the
that.
playoff, and there's no more playoff jitters. You go right in, you dominate, you steamroll through teams like that, first and second round. I don't care. I think the Rangers could probably get another 50-win season, but a legitimate 50-win season, not so much because of Igor. Because like this past season, let's be real, Igor had a lot to do with it, right? If we could get our offense going and then we can actually sharpen our defense, and you're probably saying, watching this video, Nick, we were like a top 5 defensive team. Not really. Igor just really bailed us out a lot of times. If we could just really play like we are a top 5 defensive team, and plus at least get to like top 15 on 5v5 scoring, at least just give me something there, then we can be legit. But I think this team could be top 10 in scoring. I mean, based on what they have on paper, but they just gotta Gallant just gotta get it out of them. And if our defense could just really sharpen up as well, this team definitely could do some damage. Just being, if they're a legitimate 50 win team, 50+ win team, then yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. I also agree with what Statboy Steven said. I think that not this year, I think the year after is when the window's really going to open. And he
Yeah.
brought up a great point with how the Rangers can maybe weaponize some cap space for this next offseason coming up, because next year's the last year Jacob Trouba has a full no movement clause.
Mm.
The Rangers need to go to Jacob Trouba and say, this is what Statboy Steven said. They need to go to Trouba though and be like, hey, listen, we're going to trade you the year after. So it's either you use your no move clause to control where we're going to trade you right now, or the year after you're going to go to one of the teams that aren't on your no trade list and you're not going to have the choice. So there's a strong chance that this is, hopefully, we pray to God that
Hopefully
Trouba's,
is right. Yes.
pray to God that this is
Oh
Trouba's
my
last year as a
god.
Ranger, which if it is,
Then we're actually we're already better. We're already better.
Schneider gets to move into a top 4 role. Oh, it would just be, it would be beautiful. And then you have
8
all the
million
cap
cap.
space you need.
And all you gotta do is, I'm sure teams will be interested in Jacob Trouba. Not They won't be really interested, intrigued by the contract, obviously. But if you give them like Trouba and then a little something on the side, then okay, then something can, obviously could work out. But getting rid of Trouba and that $8 million, it's gonna open up so many more options. We can actually add a legitimate, like another like legitimate star, not like a fraud like Jacob Trouba, because we thought he was going to be like this 80, 70, 80 point defenseman,
Or even then, you could work around the edges more and get
or
more
that.
depth, because
Yeah.
a guy like that, you're losing a Tyler Mott. You could, like, Jacob Trouba is so easily replaceable, because at that point, Schneider is definitely going to be ready for the
Mm-hmm.
top 4.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just end up getting another cheaper defenseman for the third pair, or you hold on to Niels, Jones, and Robertson, and you
That'd be
hope that
huge.
both of those guys, or 2 of the 3 of those guys, could be good enough to be everyday NHLers. And I really wonder if that ends up being the case, if the defensive pairs end up switching, because maybe Gallant decides to go with, at that point, Miller, Fox, and then Lindgren and Schneider, just because of how Schneider and Lindgren looked when Fox was hurt this past year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the Rangers should go the route of just probably adding, a lot more depth, and really solidifying that bottom 6 to be one of the best, because ultimately if you have something like that, you're probably gonna win a Stanley Cup.
And
So
ultimately, your top 6 should be set in stone. You drafted guys
yeah,
1 and 2 overall. You should,
and
and then
by
on top of
yeah,
that, you have Trocheck, you have Zibanejad, you have Panarin, you have Kreider. Your top 6 should be set in stone. It's just that we need these guys to take the next step.
yeah, that it's just gonna be like, it's just gonna be huge once Jacob Trouba's contract comes off the books. It's just, I think Drury's gonna have, he's gonna be able to take a deep breath and just be like, it's gonna be refreshing just to see, that we have close to $10 million in
Oh no,
cap
he
space.
should pop bottles.
Yeah, for real. Just to see the fact that we have like 10 million in cap or yeah, 10 million cap by then, I'm pretty sure. Um and the fact that, we already made a deep playoff run and hopefully this past year or this year upcoming, um we will again, hopefully to a cup, but we'll see. But yeah, if we can honestly steal a Stanley Cup like this upcoming year, it's gonna be like sick. We may actually like if we could steal a cup this year. Like think about because our like Stat Boy Steven made a good point. Our window doesn't really open up till like Truba comes off the books. If because we have a lot more freedom to add more more needed pieces. If we could just steal like a Stanley Cup this year and then get Truba off the books, I think then we can honestly, have a dynasty. And that's not honestly me being biased or crazy. It's just like the truth because like you see the team we have now. If we go in a cup with that somehow, some way, that's why I said steal a cup. Just if we figure out a way, then Truba coming off the books, that team that you see right now is gonna only get better. You add more pieces to that, a better supporting cast for guys like Panarin, Zibanejad, or Kreider, and it's going to be and then you have Lafreniere hopefully and Kako, hopefully that really step up and to really come into their own. It's going to be something like beautiful to watch, and we can honestly win like a couple, another couple Stanley Cups down the road without Jacob Trouba, obviously. That's why I think like if we could just, I mean, make a deep run at least to the conference final again will be a really good season because then that'll just give us more obviously more hope for when Trouba comes off the books, to add more pieces. Then it's like okay, now we can really make a Stanley Cup like push for the cup. But if we could just steal one here, then it's like it'd be sick because Trouba comes off the books, like I said, and then we have so many more options, and it's more likely that we win a cup. I think once Trouba comes off the books, I think we at least win one Stanley Cup. I'm just praying it happens, but knowing from our luck the past few years, we've had a couple teams like that, like we said in the tier making list, and we just didn't get lucky enough. But hopefully, I think this team definitely has the potential to be one of the best we've really ever seen, and maybe potentially better than that 2012 team. But well, I mean, we'll see. Jacob Trouba has to get off the team first, and we'll see what we do. I mean, it excites me though. It excites me, but then by then it's like you're hoping that Kreider and Zibanejad and Panarin, they're going to be in the 30s. You're hoping that they could stay competitive, still competitive and be one of those top players, in the league. So, I mean, if they can just hang on just for like just 3 more years or something like that, 3-4 more years, if they could just hang on, then we'll definitely see a Stanley Cup for sure, at least one. I mean, by now, for us as Ranger fans, we've seen some great teams. We've been kind of teased over the past few years. We thought we were going to win it and we didn't. Thought it was this year, it really wasn't. And then you see some, the following year, a team from out of the blue win it. It's annoying. If it's not this, like, we better. I think as us as Ranger fans, all we can ask for is just one Stanley Cup.
I
We just
feel like
need,
it's necessary
yeah,
to win within the next 3 years because of the fact that Igor's under that $5.6 million
that too.
contract. Because once he becomes a UFA, fuck me with that contract he's gonna get. He's gonna be the first goalie since Bobrovsky to get 10 million.
Unless if he's gonna be an absolute G and just take less, because like we met
Which
Igor,
hopefully.
we've seen Igor off the ice. He's one of the nicest people we've ever met or taken a photo with. You can just tell that he means well. I mean, if he can just be an absolute G and take like under 10 million, like maybe a Hank type contract, like which was around 8 million, I believe, right?
8.5, yeah, something
If he,
like that.
if he, if he could just be a G and take that, or even less maybe, then we could definitely have a chance. But if he's gonna be greedy as fuck, that would suck. That would suck. But
I have a feeling he's gonna get the 10.
I mean, if you can
Unless
negotiate something,
unless
but
there is a chance he doesn't, just because of the fact that you see what happened with Bobrovsky, you see what happened with no, just with Bobrovsky. This giving a goalie a $10 million thing might not be normal considering the fact that it didn't work out with Bobrovsky. But at the same time, how much will the cap be up by then?
that's true. I mean, unless you also convince Igor that, if we didn't win a Stanley Cup by then you could convince him, okay, this is the year. Like, and, just, you don't have to sign long term. You just sign a short term deal, like and we'll figure out the rest later on. We just need to win a Stanley Cup. Like, this is it. But hopefully by then we'll have a cup under our belts. But I mean, this team right now is in a good position, very good position. I think this team is good future, really great future, and for the next few years, it's gonna be exciting. I think we definitely will see at least a cup. Like if it's not like these next few years, then I guess we'll never see a cup in our lifetime. But
I'm just saying that we're cursed at that point.
yeah, if we don't win the cup, at least like in the Chris Drury era, then we're just we're
Igor
cursed.
Shesterkin does not win a cup,
Yeah, or that. If with the
I'm putting it
Rangers,
that
with
way,
the
with the
Rangers,
Rangers, yeah.
with the Rangers. Yeah,
If he
Igor
doesn't
does.
win a cup with the Rangers, yeah, we're cursed.
We are fucked. Like we are fucked. Oh my god! But let's not think about it. Let's think about now the present, because we have a good future for the next 4, 5, 6 years, something like that.
Sure, but we'll kick rocks.
Truba's gone in like a year. We're good.
Hopefully after this year.
Yeah. But let's say like Chris Drury actually makes the shit work and brings a cup home. You have to be thankful that he's still he's a young general manager. So you don't have any fear of like worrying or you don't have any fear that he'll like retire like very soon. Like he'll probably just keep going for like another 20 years. Kind of like he'll be like, if he's really that good, if he's going to be that successful, he'll be like another Glenn Sader or Lou Lamoriello. So like if that's the case, then we'll have like quite a few teams for the Rangers where we can see more than just one Stanley Cup in this era that we're in, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, which
kind of like with the Yankees and Brian Cashman, because Cashman got hired like really young, like pretty sure in his 20s, early 20s or something like that. And I don't know how old he is now, but he's still really young. Like as long as the Steinbrenners are there, then he probably will be the general manager. But it's kind of like the same thing with Chris Drury. He's still really young. If we win a Stanley Cup this year, we could definitely see another one down the road as well. It's just like you don't have any fear that he'll just retire because he's old. You know what I mean? So it's like nothing like that. So I guess like the organization, assuming that he does, do what we're talking about, Drury, and he does become one of the top GMs to ever, step foot in the NHL, then we'll definitely be in good hands, not only for this era, but our next era for, whoever that is with whoever coach we have. But, in Drury we trust. I think this is the best, I think Drury is, probably could definitely be the best GM we've had of all time if he wins at least a Stanley Cup. What's that guy's name? Neil Smith for the 94 team. But I don't know. Our 94 team was obviously good, but it's just like
you don't want to be one and done. You want sustained success.
If Drury wins at least 2 Stanley Cups, he's easily the all-time best GM.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think that's a debate at that point.
Well, you could say Glenn Sader because he won like 5 with the Oilers, but he didn't bring. He didn't win a cup with us. He didn't do shit
with us. No.
Yeah, he didn't win a cup, so it's like.
No, we mean
he had some good teams
with the Rangers. Yeah.
Yeah, he had some good teams. Obviously, that easily could have won the cup, but that's another story. I mean, that's not that's a story already spoke about.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the video.
Yeah, I trust Chris Drury, and I think that he's gonna bring us at least one. But do you have anything else to talk about before we wrap it up?
I was gonna say one more thing about Drury. A lot of team when with Gordon, I think it was like his second last year in 1920. I think a lot of people. Well, Chris Drury was the assistant general manager. A lot of people wanted to interview Chris Drury for the general manager spots, such as like Florida and like the Minnesota
Pittsburgh.
Wild, Pittsburgh. People actually had legitimate interest in Chris Drury. So like he's a highly regarded hockey executive, and people really wanted him. But ultimately, he grew up as a Ranger fan, and he wanted to stay with the Rangers. So, um, worked out for us at the end because we fired Gordon, and Dolan just said you're in, and that was it. But a lot of people wanted this guy Chris Drury, and we should be thankful that we have a guy like him. Assuming that he does what we think he will do, we'll be chilling. We'll be good hands. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what we have for the next few years down the road. But in terms of talking about anything else, no, not really. I mean, besides this upcoming season with like ticket prices for the Rangers, it's stupid. I just hate how we have one good season and then it's $100 for a regular season game. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's annoying, but
Yeah.
we'll still end up hitting up a lot of games.
Yeah, he will still go. We'll still. That's the thing with Dolan. He knows what he's doing. He's like, yeah, they're good. I know you guys will still pay, even though you say no. But
That fucker.
yeah, fuck
He
that.
got us by the balls.
It's a business at
Which
the end of
remember
the
the
day,
healthier balls
unfortunately.
of Manscaped.
Yeah.
But
Double promotion, double pay,
double
Evan.
promotion.
Double pay. There you go. Double pay.
But that is where we're gonna wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you guys are new. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is, leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star rating there. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we will see you in the next one. Let's go, Rangers.